It didn't trigger me, like it didn't make me go, he's a pig, because I always thought he was a pig.
Hmm.
He ran beauty contests.
Yeah, which I think people don't realize there has to be a lot of dirt in that, man.
Oh my
Like,
God. Well, I've read stories, moms whose daughters were in these beauty contests were interviewed by different news outlets, and he would feel perfectly comfortable walking into the dressing rooms while young girls, 16 and under, were in different states of undress. And when the mothers would be like, hello, privacy, he would be like, well, I have a daughter.
Prove to me that you are alive.
Just as an aside, like not to point out the obvious, here in the United States, the most successful states, like they have the most successful economies, they are also the most diverse states in this country.
Okay.
So like Georgia, incredibly diverse, has a wonderful economy. California, same exact way. I think Georgia might be the most diverse state in the union.
Is it really?
I think, if I'm remembering correctly, but California's right there. New Jersey, also an incredibly diverse state, also has a really good economy. But where the areas of intense diversity are in this country, they're thriving. They are thriving. The places where everybody is all together, working together, they're doing the best. If that isn't a sign,
right?
Like to me, that's mind blowing. I don't know how anyone can hear a statistic like that and not be like, no shit, wow. Instead of all this fucking anti-diversity, equity, and inclusion that our current administration thinks is the way to go and is randomly firing people just to show they can. What the fuck? Like the 3-star general or 4-star general that got killed, that got fired because he's black. The woman who's been running the fucking Coast Guard for 20 or 30 years, she's a woman, she's out.
I want to get into all of that. This is what I want to ask you, Mel, right?
Mind-blowing.
When you were like you went, you were in college, you're after college, like this whole period, like you're in your 20s, right? And I guess a lot of like the patriarchy, I guess, stood out to you, right? What else during that time were you, as you're growing into this amazing individual that you are, what other things were you noticing that's going on in society in America? Like, what were you picking up as you were developing? Like, what was going on?
So I actually found like at that age, like late 20s, early 30s, I found there was a really sort of odd balance. There were people out there, like the woman who gave me the show, who were actively trying to uplift artists and women. I dealt with people who, at the job I was working at that time, who never looked me in the eye when they talked to me. They stared at my tits the whole time. And then I also had like a guy he was my mechanic, and he was the uncle of somebody I worked with. Nice guy. And I wasn't making a lot of money out there because they don't, it's the middle of nowhere. But I would take my car to him, and he was like not your typical mechanic. I had dealt with a lot of mechanics who were like, honey, you need a
talking down on you, right?
Yeah. I had a guy tell me that I needed the struts replaced on the front of my car.
By the way, Mel is a mechanic too, man. Yeah. She'll take a car apart, bro, and put it back together.
And then I was like, dude, you know, my car doesn't have struts in the front.
Oh, shit.
It has struts in the back. Yeah. And I was like, I'll be there in 15 fucking minutes. The tires better be on it.
That's hilarious, bro.
I came to you to buy tires. That's it. Like, what the hell, motherfucker? And I got there and I looked at him and he looked like I was there to spank his ass. And I was still a kid at that point. I was like, you're an asshole. And if there had been like internet back then, I would have been all over that fucking shit. That place would be out of business.
Wait, so where I'm trying to get, like, was there patriarchy in your household? Because it doesn't sound like that. Where did you get these, like, how did you start to see these injustices?
It was like in high school, in college. I actually had a professor in college not like me because I reminded her of someone that her husband slept with. Like, she was just a bitch. And, you know, in college, it was such an intense period of learning, like dealing with all those things. And then, you know, after college in New York, moving out to middle of Pennsylvania, like that mechanic guy, he was so good. Like, he respected me as a person. I don't know if he was giving me special treatment because I was his nephew's friend. But he was honest with me. Like, he knew I was relatively handy. And whenever my car needed something, I could say to him, do you think I can do this? And he would be like, I think you could do this. I had to replace the water pump in my Mustang. It was like a really expensive repair, which I did not have the money for. And I was like, can I do it? And he said, you're going to need some muscle, but yes. And I was like, okay, great. And then I went to the local Pep Boys and I told the guy, this is what I'm doing. And he was like, wait, you're what? And I was like, yeah, I need to replace the water pump in my car.
Wow.
And he was like, well, when are you doing it? And I was like, Saturday. And he's like, okay, I'm working Saturday from this time to this time. He's like, you get stuck, you just call me. And I was like, woo, thanks, dude. And then my buddy, my muscle, and I went to another friend's place and we tore the car apart and we went to put it back together and one of the bolts wouldn't go. And I called the dude and he was really great. He was like, it's the bolt, it's not your block. So that's the good news. Just come in, I'll get you a new bolt. And he like ground a bolt for me that day. And we went home and fixed the car and I drove it away. So there were people out there that were like showing goodwill, showing that they were not part of the network, the old boy network. And that, you know, they had respect for other people just because they were other people.
Was it, I'm sorry, like, is it the 80s? Is it the 90s? And the reason I'm asking is that because obviously I came to the States like in later 90s. So I'm trying to get a sense, like, what was this like sort of masculinity, patriarchy? Like, was it part of overall culture, or because, you know, the tri-state is more liberal, like how, I'm trying to get a sense, like, what was the country like during that time as far as that goes?
So it was, this was, let's see, 1990-ish, I think. Yeah, I think I moved out there in 1990, or yeah, I started there in something like December of 90 or something. Everybody was like, oh my God, you're from New York.
We always get
which
that,
was
though.
Hilarious because I wasn't really from New York, but they were like, oh my God, she's worked in New York City. But like I lived there for, I want to say 6-ish years.
Okay, so you
I was there for
New
a
Yorker,
while.
man.
It was a nice community. Harrisburg, I lived in the city of Harrisburg, is very diverse. It was sort of like Allentown, PA. It was like a mini Allentown. Had some great neighborhoods, had some weird ones, but it had good culture. There was like a farmer's market. There was like a wings place I could walk to from my house. Double Jacks. Shout out to Double Jacks.
For anyone that's not familiar, that's the actual capital of PA. It's not Philadelphia, people.
Yeah, that is the capital of PA. And like my apartment was very reasonable. It was big. I had great neighbors. I lived in like part of the gay community there.
Ooh, that's
The neighbors,
interesting.
the neighbors were super nice.
How was like an observing it from the side, what was it like being gay in America during that time?
So trying to think exactly when the AIDS epidemic really started
Well,
going.
the AIDS was like 80s, man. So you're talking like 90s,
Yeah,
right?
early
Like
90s.
so was America becoming more accepting of it? Like what was it like?
I still think no. I'm going to say no. I think up until you know, November 1st of last year, we were probably the most accepting that this
Mhm.
country has ever been. And there's still a lot of pushback. People think being gay is a choice. And to all you who think that, all I have to say is, when did you decide you were straight?
Hmm.
Because that's just bullshit. You're born that way. It's not
You,
just a good song by Lady Gaga.
you know,
It's not fucking reality of it.
you know what I don't get about this whole like either gay or straight. I don't understand how can we possibly judge someone's character based on their sexual
Yeah,
preference. I think that's
yeah.
the dumbest shit. Like I don't ever see like, oh hi, you're straight. Oh, you're a nice guy, or like
Like,
you're
you
straight.
must
You're
be
a bit like
okay because you're straight.
what?
You must be okay.
Like
No, it doesn't
wait,
work like that.
when did we ever like to me like that's something and again I come from a very I'm Slavic. I come from a very macho culture. But you see again like what I try to do on this podcast we had but since I've been a kid like I don't know how to like judge someone based on whatever like
Yeah.
category, right? I think God blessed me like with whatever, right? So we had do you know who Buck Angel is?
Mm-mm.
So Buck Angel is officially the first you can look him up. It's the first person I think in the world that went through
Oh, the sex change.
hormonal treatment.
Oh, I think I do know who this person is.
Right. And it was the first porn star in the world with that went through the transition was a man except he didn't have the lower parts. He never done the what is it? The
Surgical
bottom surgery or whatever,
bottom
right?
surgery. Yes.
And again, like I'm Slavic, like you know, we come from like this very macho culture. But I was so interested in like the story of Buck Angel, and he's awesome. He's a friend of the show. Like he's gonna
Oh,
be back
cool.
one next week. Like I love Buck Angel, right? He has a huge following, but he was cool enough to come kick it with us. And what I'm trying to say is like I want to start, you know, bridging like people together because again, I think we can disagree and still love one another.
Yeah. And I mean, really, love is love.
You know?
Why must we, okay, I understand that there's a lot of things that make us like that develop our belief systems, you know, like racism and queerophobia. I'll just call it that. Fear of gay people, queerophobia.
Is there such a thing though?
No, there are people who are like, they're gay. That I'm a girl and they're a girl and they like girls. Do they like me? Are they looking at me now? Are they undressing me now? No, it's not like that.
That's interesting.
Okay? Maybe women think that because that's what they think men do. That might be part of that mindset. Like, if I know that you are sexually attracted to people like me, it means that you are evaluating me sexually because you're looking at me. It's not like that. Yeah, there are people out there, I'm sure, that do that, men and women, and men do it to men. I have like a really great friend, gay man, and sometimes it's like hard to walk around with him because he's like, oh, and I'm like, just stop, dude. I mean, I know half the time he's just joking around, and there'll be times when I'm walking with him, and I'm like, now that is a good-looking man right there, and he'll like joke around like, he plays on my team, that kind of shit. But like, I mean, I do understand, and I acknowledge both men and women as beautiful. And so I think maybe some of it might be that whole idea of I am, you know, a potential sexual partner for you, and because we're the same sex, that makes me feel awkward. I do maybe understand that might be part of it. I don't know. I think because people don't understand same-sex attraction or attraction to both sexes, that it scares them. And like people always say, do you know anyone who's gay? Like, do you have a gay friend, or you just know someone who's gay? And I really do believe if you had a friend who was gay, like literally a real friend, like someone you socialize with, you break bread with, you engage with on a number of issues outside their sexuality, that you would just see that they're a person like you. And like I said, you know, we're all connected. We're all connected.
We're in this together, man.
We're in this together. They are going through the same kind of shit that you have to go through. And then they have other shit that they're going through, partially because they're gay, that you're not going through. Like, it's really, it's not what they think. And that's, I think, I mean, I don't know exactly what's going on in the heads of people. I can remember being in high school. I rode the first aid squad in high school because I literally like tried everything in high school. I was like, I'll be on the track team. I'll be in the marching band. I'll play softball. I'll
That's
play
cool.
hockey. I play basketball. I was in the art club. Like, I was like, what else can I do? I'm in the choir. What else can I do?
That's cool, man.
And so being a part of, like, being a junior or cadet member of the local first aid squad was one of those things. There was a woman, I don't remember her name, I don't really even remember her, what she looks like, who everybody was like, she's gay, don't get too close to her. Okay?
Really?
Yeah, and I was
Holy
like,
shit.
okay.
Huh.
Like, I was like, okay, so she's gay, and I should, like, like, they were trying to make me believe that she was actually a sexual predator because she was gay.
Wow.
And I think that stereotype is what some people do politically to get laws changed. Like, we can't have trans girls in the girls' bathroom because it's just a boy pretending to be a girl so he can see girls' parts.
Listen, we're sorry for
There's this
interrupting
thing
you.
called the fucking internet. Everybody can look at girl parts.
Sorry for interrupting you. We're about to get into like real juicy stuff, and I wanted to ask, can I take like a 2-minute bathroom break because
Absolutely.
like but before I take, because we're about to get into, like, if you still have time, we're about to get into some real juicy stuff, man.
Yeah.
But I just want to say this before I take this break real quick. So I have a friend, a dear friend to me. I call her Mama Louise. She's gay, like she's lesbian, right? But she's like in her late 70s, and she's from New York, right? And she comes from like this Cuban household where it was very what do you call it? Like masculine, right? And her father, what's crazy is her father always wanted for the first child to be a boy, but yet she was born, right? And what I'm leading to is she has this amazing story of how New York was going through this whole transition of, wow, there are gay people, right? And she actually wrote a Broadway play. It's called Little Star.
Oh.
It's gonna come out, and it's her story. And what's amazing is, and why I'm mentioning this is because, and she read me the story, and she obviously told me the story of how when she was 5 and 6, she was already noticing that she's attracted to the same sex. You understand? And it blew my mind again, because, you know, I'm from Ukraine, and like I was always around like, you know, macho man and like all this stuff. So to me, it was so, eye-opening, like, this whole story, man. And the moral of the story is, I'm trying to highlight what you are saying. At the end of the day, this is another human being with another incredible human story, a human experience story, man.
Yeah.
Prove to me that you're alive.
Mel, you are so incredibly interesting, man. And I'm so glad that we're finally doing this. So I
Yeah.
want to get to the juicy part, because I respect and love your opinion so much. And again, as I said this in the intro, part of the reason is I want to celebrate you. I want to celebrate people like you. And another big part of the reason, I think, is because right now, in America, again, we're sort of going through like this divide. And I always want to be completely transparent, right? In front of the viewers and in front of you, is and this is why I really wanted to get your opinion and wanted to get your thoughts, because and so basically I didn't vote, right? And I didn't have a horse in the race, but I always said that like, if I would have to pick between the two, I'm leaning towards Trump, and I can explain like why, right? But listen, I don't agree with any world leader. I think that if anyone is able to take someone to war, that's not my homeboy, right? Like, I'm not messing with you. But because during the last 4 years, like, a lot of the stuff that, let's say, that we were talking about, like, we were blocked, we were shadow banned, like all of this stuff, right? And now I kind of see gears changing. And lately what I've said is in one of my videos is, us as Americans, I like to call myself an American. I'm a proud American. I'm a Ukrainian American. I'm an American, though. I think that we became a failed society. And I can explain why I say that, right? Is because it turns out that any sort of propaganda can be put in front of us, and we're like, yay, let's go this way. And then something else will come up and we're like, yay, let's go that way, right? There's only a few selected people that are like you, that can have a worldview and stick to that worldview. And that's why I respect you, and I respect people like that so much. And I want to start bridging the gap, and I want to see, like, not only what is my side thinking, but what is that side thinking. And again, like, I will always go fight with you, because I know where your heart is. And that's the most important part to me, right? We can disagree about Trump or whatever, but I know who you are inside. I feel who you are, and we have that connection. So this is what I really want to know. What happened when we went through these elections? You are this incredibly articulate, vocal, brilliant artist, writer, mother, human being. You went through this amazing life experience. You have so much to share. You've been very vocal, and I actually, if you don't mind, I want to read one of your posts a little bit later on that I seen today.
Okay.
But what happened during this election for you? Like, what do you think happened in America and for you personally?
So, I haven't always been super political. And I don't really see myself as necessarily political. But because I am like, financially, I'm a very conservative person. I don't believe in debt. I believe in I believe in living within your means. To be honest, I've been called stingy. I've had people call me cheap, and I'm like, and this just proves what a wonderful man I am married to. He's like, you're frugal. And I'm like, yes, I am frugal. And when I do my homework, that is how I am able to stay debt free, because I am doing my homework. I'm doing my financial homework. I'm looking at big picture, like everything. Over the time, the 20 plus years, 25 plus years that we've been married, we've raised 2 kids. I haven't always worked full time. A lot of balls in the air, man. You got to stay on top of all that shit. And so my focus was always like making sure the family is cared for, right? We have food. The kids are doing the activities they want. The bills are paid. The house is maintained inside and out. As a homeowner, there's all kinds of fucking shit you got to worry about and not be stressed out. Like at one point I was in grad school. I was working 3 jobs.
Wow.
I knew that they were 3 part-time jobs, but it was enough money so I could pay for grad school and have flexibility with my kids. My mom was living at that time. She used to help with the kids a couple days a week. So, there's a lot of working parts. The neighbors in our community, we always say, Tom, my son, played soccer for years. He still plays, just not like official.
Mm-hmm.
The group of boys that he grew up with, I am mother to all. And all of the other moms are mother to all. We have a village that is raising our boys.
Wow.
That's how we felt about it. I can't tell you how many other people's children I've taken them to the ER. I've said, yes, this is my child. This is my son. And he needs attention.
I know you're speaking facts because I just want to put this out before you continue. First of all, your couple, you and your husband, shout out to your amazing husband. You two are such a beautiful couple, but like when we met you, and my wife and I, my beautiful Romaniya poet, we talk about this all the time, is that whenever we met you, whenever we see you, all of you, right? We get this sense of love, right? That's one thing that jumps out. But what's another thing that really jumped out to me is that you guys raise these wonderful kids that are individuals. They are like these individual universes, right? And it shows, like, so I want to commend you on that, and I hope that you didn't lose your train of thought.
No. So like when I ended up moving out to Harrisburg, in a weird way, it was political. The governor of New Jersey at that time passed a bill taxing ridiculous things, like tax on toilet paper or something really stupid like that. And I was freelancing, and every business in New Jersey started their buttholes up when all these new taxes came out, and they stopped spending money on things like design and advertising, which was the industry I was working in.
Right.
And so like the company I was working for was like, we don't have as many hours for you. It was like everything started shrinking, and I was like, the interest rate on a mortgage was like 13% at that time.
Wow.
And I was like, I'm never going to be able to own a fucking house. Like,
ridiculous.
Never.
Yeah.
So part of the move was lower cost of living, jobs available, and get out of this climate where you're trying to tax the crap out of me, literally, and get someplace different. When I left my hometown to go to college, in my mind, I was like, I will never go back there. Like, I did not want to go back. I had had so much amazing exposure to so much other stuff. I was like, I don't want to live here anymore. So being out there was nice. Meeting different people, again, getting culturally enriched by other opinions. And the politics I did engage in were personal freedoms. I was a gun owner at that time. And it was important to me to have that personal freedom. It's still important to me as a person, knowing that I can go and purchase a gun if I want one.
So you stand for the First Amendment, right?
Yeah, First and Second Amendment rights. Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't have a problem with people owning guns. I really don't. Don't go around fucking shooting people unnecessarily with them. That's where I draw the line. And I don't have a problem with regulating certain guns. I don't I don't need an AK-47. I don't need it if I'm hunting. I don't need it.
Yeah,
for
who the
protection.
hell needs a M16 or a AK, bro? Like, come on.
I don't have an issue with that. And so I was like a little somewhat politically minded when I moved. And then I was in a place where it was even keel and everything was great. It wasn't until the kids were a little bit older when I started paying a little bit more attention. And then, of course, oh God, the whole fiasco with George Bush Jr., which not Jr., but you know who I mean.
Yeah.
And Al Gore.
I remember that clearly, man.
Yeah, that enraged me. When the Supreme Court stepped in and they were like, it's a Bush. And I was like, it's not a Bush. So
were you always leaning more towards being a Democrat?
I have a tendency to agree more with democratic ideals.
Okay.
Like I said, I am conservative, financially, fiscally conservative. But I think that we do need to be progressive. Having conservative values is fine, but if it's stagnating you, no thanks. You need to think outside the box. You need to be a little more progressive. You need to look for unusual solutions to problems.
Because the world is unusual, damn it.
Right, and it's constantly changing. And, you know, there's a number of times where, and 9/11 is a really good example of this, where we got caught with our pants down in this country, partially because our ego is so big, and partially because we weren't thinking outside the box.
I was in the city that day.
Yeah, so was John. And my dad. It was a very scary day for me. Yeah. I was at one of my 3 jobs when it happened. I worked at a bank, and I watched live on television the second plane hit the tower, and then I was like, "Holy fuck!" And immediately, this
is not a movie trailer. I think we were all thinking, like, "Is this a new movie trailer, bro?" And then we realized it's not.
I couldn't get through to John. I knew he was not near there, but I was able to get through to my dad, like on a landline. And he was like, we're all freaked out. We don't know what's going on. And I talked to him a couple of times during the day before the phones got overloaded. And between those little conversations, had a plan in place. If my husband needed to stay there, if my father needed to stay safe in the city, there was a place for them. So it was a weird day. But that's an example where we're not thinking outside the box, and it bit us in the ass. So we need to always be thinking innovatively if we're going to keep moving forward. That is one of the things, like currently, I don't think they want to move us forward. I think they want to actually move us backwards. Before we get into that, were you satisfied with the previous administration? 100% no. Okay. No, I thought, you know, Joe Biden is a nice guy. He is. He is a nice guy. Has he made mistakes? Yeah. I will respectfully disagree, but okay. Everybody's made mistakes, man. As president, he tried to accommodate a lot of people, and he made a lot of mistakes doing that. Like, he could have been more firm, in my opinion, about some things, and he was trying to appease everyone. You can never appease everyone. You have to stay on mission. Whatever your mission is, you have to stay on mission. So in that respect, I was like, you could have done better there, Joe. Did you vote for him? I did vote for him. Yes, I did. Okay. I voted for Kamala. Donald Trump has had a long relationship with New Jersey. Sorry, let me ask you though, why did you vote for Kamala Harris? Was it because she's from the previous administration? Was it because she's a woman? Was it because she's a black woman? Was it was it all of these things together? Like, what was your, like? So there were things about her that I was like, I don't want to vote for her. She's a prosecutor. Okay. And some of the mistakes she made kind of irritated me a little bit. Big picture, I thought that she was the better candidate, and that, like, as vice president, she was doing some really, really important things that are near and dear to me. She was traveling the country, getting paid family leave for pregnant women. Okay. That was fucking huge. And that never made the news. Okay? Nobody ever fucking talked about that.
Do you think, and I'll get to the second question, but my first question is, do you think that she would be able to actually handle being the president?
Yeah. I mean, as a prosecutor, yeah. You gotta have your fucking shit together. You can't be the number one prosecutor in the state of California. That's a big fucking place, without having your act together.
So what do you think when I hear this often, that America wasn't ready for a woman president, and on top of that, America wasn't ready for a black woman president? Like, what do you think about that?
It's like America couldn't have a gay president because we're still stuck in that box.
Huh. You don't think we crossed that line with Obama?
So Obama, for a lot of people, was easier to take because he's a guy.
Really? Can you break that down to me? Because maybe I'm missing something. Maybe, like, that's why I wanted to talk to you, man. Maybe I'm missing something. Why? That's so interesting. Why do you say that?
So, we have these, what did you call them? Anglo-Saxon belief systems. I'm trying to remember how you put it.
I call it Eurocentric.
Thank you.
Judeo-Christian Anglo-Saxon.
And who did he run against? John McCain?
Yeah.
Yeah. And Sarah Palin?
Yeah.
Oh my God, please. No. Sarah Palin. John McCain probably could have won if he hadn't taken her as a running mate. I'm just saying. That woman is cuckoo. And she was the beginning of normalizing being a horrible person. Okay. In my opinion. I mean, she wasn't horrible. She just didn't come off as being very
But she was dumb, though, man.
Yeah, I didn't want to insult her, but yeah.
Yeah, I gotta say it, man. She said some dumb things.
Yeah, she said some really stupid things. But I think if he had not chosen her, he may have won. Because John McCain is a war hero. Yes, I know, not in the world according to Trump. And I don't agree with everything John McCain says, but he was a decent person. And he cared about the bigger picture. Would he have been a very conservative president? Most likely. But I think he would have taken care of us. That's the job.
Okay.
I liked Obama. I like that he ran on a message of hope, that he tried to really encourage everyone to get out and vote. Now,
it was change. It was a drastic change for America. And I'm sorry for interrupting you again. I just want to point this out because I remember coming to the States in the 90s, and I came, we lived in the hood, like we lived in a ghetto. And obviously, to me, coming from Ukraine in the 90s, right after the fall of the Soviet Union, I didn't realize like if this is a ghetto or not a ghetto, whatever. Like, but what I started noticing, and what I tried to relate to kids these days, because I think that we mostly passed that time, is that America was still very much segregated, man. There was still this thing of like, oh, you're a white guy, you like rap music, like you're a wigger, or like it was like these. It was still very segregated, man. So I think when Obama came, it was like this completely different change of like, oh, we can actually do this, man.
Right. I was thrilled to see a black man get voted in as president, strictly because he was a black man. Like at the most basic level, I was like, oh my God, we did this, because we are an incredibly racist country. And people are like, no, we're not. And there's a woman, I think she was an educator from like the 50s or the 60s. and she spoke about racism a lot. And one of the things she would do in her talks was tell everyone in the crowd, anyone here, any white person in the room who would trade places with a black person right now, their life for one life for the other, please stand up. No one ever stood up. Okay.
But do you think it was because of color, or do you think it was because a person wouldn't want to be in someone else's shoes?
They don't want to be in someone else's shoes, but specifically because that person is black. Because black people do not have it as good as white people do in this country. Redlining, all the Jim Crow laws, like all this stuff is still playing out at lesser levels, like not as blatant, more like encrypted. I don't think that might be the right word.
I like that word.
But like the whole thing is still like, it's still a reality. It's just a lot more, it's deeper down.
Okay, so
some is blatant. Like I know people who still use the N-word.
Right. Let me
you just need to stop. Okay.
Let me ask this. When you're voting, right? When you were going to vote for Obama, or like, you know, when the first time that Trump ran, are you going to vote thinking Democrat, or like are you going to vote based on the policies and the stuff that they did?
I'm not a Democrat. Like, I'm not registered as Democrat. I never was. I will say that I will not vote for someone who is looking to take my rights away.
Okay.
That is a huge factor for me. And people are like, oh, you're a one-issue candidate. And my response a lot of times is, how can I trust a candidate if they're willing to take away my personal rights? How can I trust them with anything if they're willing to take away my personal rights? And I literally,
for example, can you give me an example?
Abortion.
Okay.
Right. And I do understand. I completely understand how some religious people feel about abortion. I do. And I don't disrespect them for that. Like, I would never tell them to fucking get over it. But I say to them, and I had this conversation online recently, you have a belief system. It's yours. Okay? And I respect that. But your belief system should not inform my healthcare. Okay? My healthcare is my business. I'm not going to ask you about your vasectomy, or I'm not going to suggest that you don't get one if you don't want children. I'm not going to tell you not, to take your erectile dysfunction drug, because if God didn't intend you to have wood, then you don't have wood. Okay? No. That's your business, man.
Right.
So why on earth would you try and tell a whole group of people what they're allowed to do when it comes to their healthcare? Women should be able to decide for themselves when they have a family and when they don't. And I want to say it's like Oklahoma, Idaho. There's a couple states right now that I'm just
but do you think it's only, I don't want to get deep into that because I'm really curious in your opinions, because again, I respect your opinion so much. Is it only up to the woman though?
About starting family?
About the abortion part?
Well, this is one of those things, because there are, right, people who get pregnant, women who get pregnant, and they're like, I can't have an abortion because it's against my religion. And then their partner, the other half of that scenario, may be like, I don't want a kid. And I want you to terminate the pregnancy. And they're like, no, I can't.
Right.
Catholic. Well, you're obviously not that Catholic because you had unprotected sex. Okay. So let's not be a hypocrite.
So you do
But
think it's up to two people?
it is absolutely. Both
Okay,
people have
cool.
to be. There has to be a agreement
Cool.
in this process. Like, okay, you want to have a child. I don't want to have a child. Release me from being responsible for that child. If you just need to have this child for whatever reason. Now, some women are like, no, you got me pregnant. You're responsible. You're financially responsible. Okay, what steps were taken to not get pregnant? If we're going to be calling out responsibility, we need to look at both sides of that. Did the condom break? Was there no attempt at birth control? Right? Where is the responsibility there? And if it turns out it's nobody's fault, right? Then there needs to, like, personal responsibility needs to come into play.
Okay. Cool. So, all right, I want to get past the board. So abortion basically is one of those rights that you feel like shouldn't be left up to the state. I
Right.
mean, obviously,
it's
right?
Personal.
Are there any other things that you can think of that are like big for you?
Obviously, freedom of speech is hugely important.
Okay.
Being able to, have your opinion, vocalize your opinion.
That's crucial, man.
That is so crucial. I been marching on Washington since I was in my 20s. If you piss me off enough, I'm going to come and yell at you about it. Like, that's, my kids will tell you.
So the first time Trump ran in 2016,
Yeah.
I want to ask you, like, from a personal standpoint and from like your vocal activist point of view, and I'm gonna ask it in the New York fashion. Like,
Okay.
what is your beef with Trump, and has there always been a beef, or did the beef turn up as soon as he decided to run for president?
No, I've had beef with him for a long time. Just being a New Jersey resident, the whole Atlantic City debacle.
Okay.
When I was working in New York, when that jogger was assaulted in New York City.
Ooh, tell me about that. I don't recall that. What was that?
So a woman was assaulted in Central Park.
Okay.
And it was horrific. If she hadn't been found when she was found, she probably would have died. I don't know what her life is like now, but the New York City Police Department arrested 5 Black teenagers and coerced them into confessing. They were innocent. They were scared little boys. I think the oldest one might have been 16. To be honest, I don't know. I don't remember their exact ages. It was a long time ago. But they threatened them. They terrorized them. And they used their position of power on these poor kids. No, excuse me. I don't know, like, what those interactions looked like. They weren't videotaped back then. Donald Trump ran an ad saying basically death penalty. Kill all 5 of these teenagers. Their lives are worth nothing. And I was like, that's pretty ballsy, dude. Like, he was convinced because they confessed that they should all die. But even though they confessed, they said they were innocent. So they went to trial and they were like, not guilty. They were like saying, we didn't do it. And then the judge was like, well, we have your confession. And then, as it turns out, they were innocent. Evidence was found, probably genetic evidence, and they were all freed. One of them ran for public office in New York recently and won. which I was super happy to see that this did not completely ruin his entire life. That he,
And obviously in America, there are countless stories like this.
yeah. Oh God, yeah. And Trump never walked back saying, "Oops, my bad," and that, you know. Then in Atlantic City, he like basically bankrupted Atlantic City, and in doing so, bankrupted thousands of people because he has a history of not paying.
Yeah. Well, we know
So,
he had a
yeah.
whole bunch of like filing for bankruptcy and everything.
Yep.
What I want to
He's
get to,
used that as a way to get out of paying people the money he owes them.
yeah, what I want to get to. So it's 2016. It's him and Hillary. What are you thinking at that time? Are you again thinking like, ooh, like just like when Obama, like it would be cool if a woman becomes president, or like you're leaning more towards like we know the Clintons, like what was that like?
I was like lesser of two evils. Hillary Clinton was a terrible candidate. I thought she would have been great as president.
So you thought she was lesser evil than Trump?
Yeah.
Huh.
She was a terrible candidate. She had no charisma, which we as the American people had been wowed by for years by presidential candidates, and Barack Obama is a great example of that. Bill Clinton, you know, could talk to a crowd, could woo the crowd. And Bill Clinton, in my opinion, he did okay as president. As a human being, I think he's a piece of shit.
Yeah. America was good when he was president, man.
When she didn't divorce him after the whole suck my dick in the White House, I was like, I'm done with you, bitch. Like, I had respect for her up until that point, and I lost respect for her. And when she was like going to run for president, I was like, ugh. And then I did my homework about her, because I really didn't like Trump just because of all the bullshitty things he's done in the course of his life. And I was like, I'm not going to trust this guy with my country. I can't even trust him to build a fucking hotel. So I was like, since you
did your research and your homework, did you find out how dirty the Clinton family is?
I did see that, like, there's so many things with Jeffrey Epstein and all these other things. And I was just like,
Haiti, like, are you aware of the things that they did with Haiti? Like,
I don't know specifically what went down in Haiti.
Okay, well, you remember the earthquake?
Yes.
It was 2011.
Yep.
And they raised a whole bunch of money. A lot of money went missing.
Private foundation?
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of people weren't helped.
I do remember there's like something funky about that in the news.
There were a lot of kids that ended up being missing in Haiti. Like, there was a lot of very, very unsettling stuff. So you're set. Okay, so we passed that. You're satisfied with the previous administration. What satisfied you about the previous administration besides you thinking that Joe Biden is a nice guy?
I was thankful that he got that transportation bill moved forward. I thought that was crucial, and I was so disappointed because when Trump was in office the first time, he had an opportunity to get that done, and he didn't take it. And I was like, why are you not doing that? Like, it's putting people to work. So I was thankful that happened. I would have liked to have seen him get the ERA in print. I would have liked to have seen him decriminalize marijuana on the federal level, because there's so much talk about how it could be valued medicinally.
And plus, people getting, like we talked about, people getting locked up for no damn reason, man.
Right, because you're smoking pot. It's way less worse for you than drinking alcohol. Alcohol's addictive, for fuck's sake. But I was like thankful that Joe was trying. You know, he was helping out Ukraine. That was hugely important to me.
What do you think? What do you think about him? And we're gonna get to the Ukraine because I'm from Ukraine. What do you think about the fact that for the last year or a couple of years, he wasn't all there? Like,
he was really wishy-washy.
but we're talking real
mentally.
visible
decline.
Decline meant like this wasn't something, like a propaganda, like this was visible. Like, what did you think of that?
Yeah, well, in my mind, I'm like, okay, Grandpa. And when he was like, I'm gonna run again, I was like, why? You're too
like, that's
old to
torture,
run
right?
Yeah, I was like, dude, you're too old to run again. In my mind, I'm like, you're barely hanging in there now. And I had faith that the people around him would help guide him. I think, like, for example, the whole marijuana thing, this is an issue I have with the way our government runs. They are too concerned with corporate America's interests. If they make marijuana legal, pharmaceutical companies will lose money.
Of course.
I don't fucking care about that.
That's big, though. You have to, people have to be real and remember there are people that are signing these checks, man.
Yes.
Like, we have to remember that DC has legal lobbying. Like, which
should not be legal, in my opinion.
We can't be naive about these things. Like,
lobbying should not be a thing.
But we have to be realistic about that. There are sponsors on top of these.
It's a legal form of bribery. That's all that is.
There are sponsors on top of these political figures that we see, and we just, like, it's a reality, man.
Yeah. Well, somebody recently said to me, they were, I don't know, trying to entrap me in some conversation. I think, if the president's only allowed to have 2 terms, all public officials should only be allowed to have 2 terms. And I was like, I am totally down with that. I have no fucking problem with that at all. The governor of Texas, he's been in office way too long. He is so corrupt. That state is like literally that Eurocentric yada yada, all there. He is owned by the oil companies. So nothing he does is for anybody's good except the oil companies. So yeah, I'm like, yes, hell yes. And by the way, once you're out of office, you don't have the health care anymore too. If they ended that policy, there's all the fucking savings they're looking for. Okay? You're not in office anymore. You ran for Congress. You served 1 term. Good for you. I'm not paying for your health care for the rest of your fucking life. How about that? There's a way to save money. Sorry.
So okay, so when these last elections came around and we woke up to Donald Trump back in office, what was that like for you?
I was actually kind of shocked, and a friend of mine was like, "You shouldn't be so naive. People love to hate each other more than they love, they love their money." And I was really disappointed that we had learned nothing from his first presidency. And people, this is one of the things people like to say to me. We didn't get into any wars while he was president. No, we were fucking dying from COVID, you idiot. That's why we didn't get into a war. Okay. We were just trying to stay alive at home.
I don't know how people forget about, I call it the plague. Like, why people forget about that. So, and I think also because we live like in these mostly liberal states that we forget that this country is so big and it's so vast, and it's really not the way, tri-state is. And that's why sometimes
it's very different.
Yeah, we can wake up to like a shocking new president. We're like, where did that come from? I thought everyone was on the same side. Well, no, America is, I would encourage anyone, because I have done this, go travel, go, drive from here to California and take that trip, because America, you will be shocked, man. I remember coming into Montana and realizing it was just a whole bunch of white people. To me, it was like, whoa, like, and I'm, walking around with my hip hop ass, sagging my pants. I'm thinking they're going to put me on a cross out here. I'm like, holy shit, bro. Like, with my New York accent, man. So this is what I want to, is it okay if I read, is it okay if I read one of your posts? This was from 4 days ago.
Yeah.
So it goes like this. Hey, Trump voters, or maybe it would be best to just start referring to you as communist because your guy did this. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt announced that the White House Correspondents Association will no longer determine the press poll. That is exactly what Putin did when he took power in Russia, and we all know how much freedom the Russian people have. Can you expand on that?
Yeah. So a lot of people try to push back. Oh, Joe did this. He banned all these people. How is this different? Now conservative media can be in the room. Yeah, but Putin did it so that he could only let the people in who wrote about him nicely. And slowly that list got smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller until there's only one outlet. That is not freedom of speech. Okay? What Joe Biden did was tell people that you have to be paid as a journalist to get journalist credentials for our pressers. Very different thing. And he still was not deciding who's in the room and who's not in the room. He just told the organizational group, people who you're letting in have to meet these very basic standards. They have to have been paid for journalism and whatever period of time. I don't want, and Trump does this a lot, somebody asks him a tough question. And, you know, a lot of people do this. He does this a lot. They're talking, trying to ask a question. He starts talking over them before they can really get out what it is that the information they're hoping to acquire.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, but no. He's like, don't talk, don't talk. Like, he tries to fucking big daddy them.
Mm-hmm.
But
he's a real estate guy, though. Like, why do people forget he's a New York real estate guy? So yeah, he dealt with gangsters his whole life.
He has dealt with some really horrible people. He has relationships with the Russian mob in New York.
But listen, you like people have to realize the real estate in New York. We're talking about the Union. We're talking about the La Cosa Nostra. We're talking about like the five families. Like that's who, you know, and that's the people that he dealt with. So okay.
But like a little courtesy goes a really long way.
Right.
That, you know what I mean? Just respecting that person's time. They're trying to respect your time by asking a very succinct question. And he's not really good at being direct. He gets like, I don't like the way you asked that. You know, he tries to bully, whatever you want to refer to that behavior. I don't even know how to classify that behavior exactly. Sometimes it's bullying. Sometimes it's, you know, I'm the big man here kind of weirdness. But he decided that a couple of independent news outlets, I think it was AP and Reuters, I don't know, Reuters, aren't allowed in anymore. AP because they won't refer to the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of the United States or Gulf of
America. Yeah.
Fuck, he thinks he named it. You don't get to name it. It's not your property.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's a bill. Instead of Greenland, the red, white, and blue land.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Some hokey, I don't know, some senator from Oklahoma introduced that bill into this week to buy Greenland, allow the president to negotiate. I know, I'm hanging my head in shame. But I'm not going to say what I want to say because it's so inappropriate. But, you know, I think that he does not have a basic sense of respect for people.
Okay. What do you think?
That step by saying, I'm not going to let you in because you won't call it what I want it to be called. I mean, what are we, 10? No. They're a fucking news agency. They deserve to be in the room. They're a respected news agency, and they're not political. It's AP. They're not journalists. They're reporters. There's a difference.
Did the whole story with like grabbing pussy and all that, did that trigger you as the way that you are?
surprise me.
Uh-huh.
I
But
was
that
like,
didn't
well, of
that
course
didn't
he does, privately and publicly. I'm not someone who like follows personalities. Like
mm-hmm.
I don't really care what Hollywood does. It didn't trigger me. Like it didn't make me go, he's a pig. Cause I always thought he was a pig. He ran beauty contests.
Yeah, which I think people don't realize there has to be a lot of dirt in that, man.
Oh my
Like,
God. Well, I've read stories. Moms whose daughters were in these beauty contests were interviewed by different news outlets, and he would feel perfectly comfortable walking into the dressing rooms while young girls 16 and under were in different states of undress. And when the mothers would be like, hello, privacy, he would be like, well, I have a daughter.
Prove to me that you are alive.